Welcome back, everybody. This is Richard Gearhart for Passage to Profit with my co-host this evening, Kenya Gibson. Hi, Kenya.
Hi, Richard. How are you? Thank you
Hi.
for having me.
Oh, it's great. Actually, I'm a little slow today. I had the COVID vaccine on Sunday, and I had the Moderna vaccine. It just knocked me on my butt for about 2 days, and I'm back in the swing of things now. But I hope this keeps me safe from the vaccine, and I encourage everybody else out there who hasn't gotten it yet to get it, right? Very important part of controlling this epidemic. So,
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better.
yeah. So with us tonight is Bryan Clayton, who's a business mentor and the CEO and co-founder of GreenPal, an online marketplace that connects homeowners with local lawn care professionals. And he's been called the Uber for lawn care by Entrepreneur Magazine. Over 200,000 active users, completing the thousands of transactions a day and generating lots of money. So welcome to our show, Bryan. So what's it like to run a big business like that?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Richard. It's awesome to come on and share my story. So yeah, starting GreenPal, we're an 8-year overnight success. Started this in the summer of 2013, and it didn't start off as a big company. It actually started off very small and humbly. My two co-founders and I started working on the app 8 years ago, and the first thing we did was pass out a bunch of door flyers all over Nashville, Tennessee, where I live, getting the word out about this app that we had built, which was supposed to be the Uber for lawn mowing, but it didn't really fulfill that vision in the early days. It was really clunky. It was hard to use, but luckily we were able to hustle up a few dozen people to use it, and we just kept talking to people, asking them what they wanted to see the app to do, and we just rinsed and repeated that process over year after year after year, and we were doubling every year after year in the early years, and that number just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and now here we are 8 years later. Couple 100,000 people using the app. We're doing over $20 million a year in revenue. And now it's starting to get fun. I've got a good team around me. I come into work every day. Everybody here is smarter than me. That's a lot of fun. And it's actually getting to the point where we've got some good momentum behind us, and we're able to take bigger bets and do things quicker and faster. So it's just one of those things, we just stuck it out in the early years, and luckily we just didn't give up. And I think that's the key to our success. It was just not giving up.
Kenya?
That's great. Yeah, no, I have two questions for you. One is, when is the last time you mowed a lawn? And the other one is, how do you find people? Like, how are you finding the people that are actually contracting with you that go out and provide the service?
That's a great question. So before GreenPal, I actually had a lawn mowing business. I started cutting grass in high school as a way to make extra cash, and I just stuck with this little lawn mowing business all through high school and all through college. And over a 15-year period of time, I built this little lawn mowing business into one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee, where I live. I got that business over 150 employees, over $10 million in revenue. And in 2013, the business was acquired by one of the largest landscaping companies in the United States. So I kind of have the lawn mowing business in my DNA. I have the scars and all of the experience and know how it works from the inside out. And so I plowed all of that into how we built the app for GreenPal. And so GreenPal is really, it's an app that connects buyers and sellers. It's a marketplace, and it's a nice convenience for homeowners to get this service done. But really why we do what we do, why I get out of bed in the morning, is to give anybody access to the American dream, give anybody access to running a successful lawn care business just by plugging into our platform and working hard. And because I know how hard it is to run a lawn mowing company. And that's why I love this job. That's why I love founding this company, is because we have story after story after story, people that didn't know how to run their business, didn't know how to market it, weren't making any money. And after a year on our platform, they're making the more money they've ever made in their entire life, material income. And that's a lot of fun for me. And so, yeah, that taking that kind of supplier approach first, solving for all of their needs, is how we are able to offer a nice convenience to homeowners where they can push a button and hire them off the shelf.
That's great. So do you recommend mowing the grass when it's wet?
No, unless you want an irritated, upset customer. Now, sometimes you have to, particularly in the springtime and, anywhere where it's just raining like 3 or 4 days out of the week. Sometimes you have to, but then you got to get out a smaller piece of equipment. You might have to push mow it. You can't get the big tractor on the lawn. It's going to leave ruts. So you're going to have an upset customer. So I do not recommend that.
I appreciate that, because sometimes our lawn ends up with ruts, and it's not a pleasant sight, let me tell you.
Right. Yeah. If you want to keep that customer, you might want to let it dry out. Or, a lot of things that we teach our service providers, just communication, proactive communication with your clientele. Reach out to your customer, say, hey, a little wet this week. You mind if we skip this week? It might get a little long, but I think it's a better move. So really training that service provider to run a successful small business is kind of what our technology does over time, because, we're not taught this stuff in school. We're not taught how to run a small business in high school or college. You kind of have to learn this stuff as you go. And that's what our app is kind of geared towards, is training anybody to run a successful lawn care business, and slowly kind of evolving them from not knowing how to do it to running a six-figure company.
That's great. That brings me to my next question. So I was going to ask you, what systems do you have in place to ensure that every customer has that same experience every time? Because obviously you're building a brand, and you have all these people that are part of the platform, but how do you ensure that everyone's having that same GreenPal experience?
That's an awesome question, because that's the kind of the role of our platform. That's our job, is to make sure that a homeowner gets a good quality job done when they hire somebody to come out to mow their yard. They don't know them. They don't know if they're any good or not. And so when we first started, it was very much hand cranking. We would interview these people face to face. We would look at their equipment. We would talk to their past customers, and we would make sure that through a curated approach that we only got the best on the platform. Now we have 25,000 lawn care services that use it. We can't personally do that to every single one of them, but what we have built are systems in place to understand these are the reliable contractors, and these are the ones that aren't so reliable. And so we measure them on a few different dimensions. One is, how often do they show up on time? How often do they show up on the day they are supposed to show up to come cut your grass? And you would think this is a simple thing, but like the case of the disappearing lawn guy, or the case of the lawn guy flaking or ghosting on you, it's real. Like, they just don't show up, and then they just drop off the face of the earth. So we measure that. And so we understand, okay, 93% of the time this service provider shows up on the day they're supposed to. And then we also measure, how often do they get booked for a second lawn mowing, third and fourth lawn mowing? Because that's a big indicator of, are they offering a quality service? Do they do a nice and neat job edging the driveway and blowing off all the grass clippings? Do they communicate? Do they if the grass is really tall, do they run over it a couple times to make it nice and neat when they're done? Like, all of these things, you really can't grade all of the details, but you can through just a passive signal, such as, okay, Joe's Lawn Care came out and mowed. I booked them for the whole season. That's a positive score. Or, hey, Joe never gets booked for a second lawn mowing. We kind of need to downgrade him in the platform. And if he doesn't hit a certain number of benchmarks, we expel the ones that just aren't good. And that enables homeowners to sidestep that experience that, quite frankly, is common if you just hire somebody off of Yelp or Facebook or Craigslist. You're going to have to go through like a half dozen of these folks to figure out which one's good. GreenPal enables the homeowner to kind of avoid that entire experience. You just hire a good, reliable contractor.
So Bryan, what is the cost per cut on average?
It's a good question. It varies throughout the entire country. So if you live down in Florida, you can literally get your lawn mowed for like $17. It is so competitive down there because it's year round, and it's just a lot of people are in the industry.
No wonder a lot of people move to Florida. It makes perfect sense now.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like, that's our use case. Is it's not the homeowner that wants like the private gardener that's going to spend a bunch of money on their lawn care service. It's the working class individual that understands by the time they buy a lawnmower and they mow their own yard, they're making less than minimum wage. And so we make it affordable and convenient for anybody to hire a lawn care service, and make it profitable for that lawn care service to come out and do the job.
So do the lawn services pay you a franchise fee of some sort, or how do you make money off of the app?
Yeah, so we're a true marketplace, and we make money off of every transaction that occurs on the platform. And that's kind of a varied percentage based on how much revenue the contractor is doing through the platform. And then We also have some premium tools that some of our bigger contractors like to pay for, better route optimization, better placement within the marketplace. So we make money a couple different ways, and that helps us reinvest into the technology, make it smoother, and market the platform. We've been at this 8 years and we're still working on one problem. How do we make lawn care easier, faster, quicker, cheaper, more convenient, more consistent, just making that better and better and better. We also offer other yard maintenance services like shrubs and mulch and seed after you get hooked up with a good lawn mowing service, but we're still focused on that first kind of initial use case. How do we make that smoother, easier, cheaper, faster?
Kenya?
Yeah, no, I was going to ask, you bring up a good point, Richard, in terms of like challenges, like what type of challenges have you faced in addition to what you just spoke about and how you've built up the brand and the business?
I think naivete is like a good thing for anybody starting a business. I think if you come into starting a business and you are naive about how hard, how easy it's going to be, or how challenging it's going to be, that will help you get into the game. It certainly is the case for me. When I sold my landscaping company, I took some time off. I was able to retire after that, and so my next business, I was able to kind of do what I wanted to do. And I thought, this business was really hard. It was a blue collar style business. It was like trucks and equipment and lots of employees. And like, I don't want to do that again. That was really hard. I want to do an easy business. I want to start a software business. And boy, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know how hard that was going to be. And so a lot of the challenges in the early days is like when you're starting a software company, in most cases, you are inventing something brand new that does not yet exist. And so just kind of like the example with the banana case, we're kind of like, I don't know, is it a good idea? Is it not? We're making fun of it. It's a brand new product. Nobody had ever invented the banana case, right? And so it's like when you're inventing a brand new thing from scratch, there is no roadmap. There is no like other company you can look at and just execute better than them. And so that was one thing I didn't understand. And so when we, the first year I was confronted with like, we poured our hearts and soul into this thing. We only got like 20 customers. I was thinking, man, this is going to be really, really tough. Do I really want to do this? And the only thing that got me through that challenge was meeting with these people. And they would tell me, they were disappointed it didn't work, or the prices were too high, or the contractor didn't do a good job, or it was clunky, there was buggy. It was 100 different problems. And you heard these 100 problems, you saw the disappointment, but there was one thing we didn't hear. I don't need this. We never heard that. And so we knew that at least people wanted it to work. We knew that people had the problem. They needed an easy way to hire somebody for this one chore. And that was enough validation to keep going. And so that customer feedback was kind of like our R&D, and was the thing that just kept us going through those first 2 or 3 years, which were just really, really tough.
Kenya, we have time for one more question.
Oh, no, I think what your invention is amazing, and it's simplistic, but again, just tapping into a need, like that's the best business idea, is if you're solving a problem, right? So I would just say, like, in terms of how you've grown, like you've grown exponentially, what are your next steps to scale it? Because it seems like it's already kind of a big deal, but I'd just be curious what your plans for growth are.
Yeah, when you're part of a high growth company, it's fun. Like, it's growing, and you as the entrepreneur, like, you're evolving. Like, I'm not the same person today that I was 8 years ago, and that's a lot of fun. And it's like you're kind of evolving every 3 or 4 years. And so that to me is like a lot of the reason why I do what I do, is because it's part of my personal growth. And it's easy to look back and say, wow, look how far we've come. But like the Jeff Bezos quote, it is still day one. We have so much further to go. And so like we're in like the default list of ways you do certain things, like Instacart, DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, Airbnb. Until we're in that conversation, we're not done. And so we got a long, long way to go, a lot of white space, and a lot of hard work left ahead of us.
Well, it seems in your case, the grass is definitely greener on the other side. I had to say that.
That's a good one.
You got it in before I did.
Yeah.
Well, that's absolutely, we're having a great time talking with Bryan Clayton, but we have to take a break, and we'll be right back after this. You're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard Gearhart, and our substitute co-host, Kenya Gibson, will be back after this commercial break.